Hey, Battle Bill, here with another video, and today we're getting some more Season 4 Great League Go Battle League battles. Alright, the next topic on the agenda to cover is the Flame Charge buff. Last video, we covered the new move of Lunge on Galvantula. Today's video, we're going to go over Flame Charge, which is not a new move, but it was recently buffed thanks to the Season 4 update. Not a lot of Pokemon get access to this move, and the buff essentially, I don't think it increased the amount of damage it does, but it made sure it guarantees that Flame Charge gives an attack buff, or an attack stat buff to the Pokemon that uses it. And it's guaranteed 100% every time you use Flame Charge, your Pokemon will get buffed in attack. Now, the issue here is, there are not a lot of Pokemon with access to this move of Flame Charge. And hopefully down the line, that's something Niantic checks out and gives more Fire Pokemon access to this move. Because currently, the top two Pokemon to use with this move are a Psychic type and an Electric type. So I'm missing some of the logic on that one, but hopefully it's adjusted in the future. That Pokemon being Mew, and then also Zebstrika, however you want to pronounce it. I know there are a couple Fire Pokemon. I think Combuskin gets it, and Darumaka gets it, and I'm probably missing another one. They're just not relevant nor really usable. So today's video is going to be covering Mew, and we're going to see how well it now performs with this Flame Charge buff. One thing I'm going to suggest, because some other content creators, specifically Zionic on this one, but other content creators are covering these new Pokemon buff moves. Also, I also know also Zionic, but J Farmakis covered the Galvantula buff in its new move of Lunge. I highly recommend you check out all content creators' videos on these moves to get varying opinions, see varying perspectives, see different battles for the opportunities to determine whether this is a positive or a negative. Does Mew benefit from this, or should it not be running Flame Charge or things along those lines? So I will also be doing a video covering Flame Charge on Mew, and I ran it as, obviously as a charge move. Mew was running Shadow Claw as its quick move, and I gave it Wild Charge as its other charge move, and I'll explain why in a moment, why I did that. But other than that, let's jump into these battles so I can then explain. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let's check out this set. Also, I need to make a correction because I checked in between clips. I didn't want to completely scrap the last clip, but Flame Charge actually is dealing less damage now that it has that guaranteed attack stat buff. So just want to make sure I specified that and corrected that. Let's get into the first match of the set, and we got a Mew on Whiscash lead. And the first thing that stands out to me is, you know, Flame Charge is giving you a guaranteed attack buff every time you use it. So my brain was like, oh, this is going to be Fire Power-Up Punch. And when I start charging up energy, I'm like, wait a minute. This thing is more energy than Wild Charge. So I had to completely change my game plan. But that was the main reason why I ran it in the lead, because I'm like, you know, maybe I could buff Mew up a little bit and then potentially get a shield and throw a Wild Charge and then take out Pokemon and whatnot. And that was a logic I was going to play with. But in this case, I'm like, wait, I got Wild Charge and Flame Charge. I can't do too much against this Whiscash. So I throw Wild Charge at it to alright, I'm out, and then swap out into my safe swap on this team of Azu. So the team I put together here was Mew with Azu as a safe swap, and then Bastion on the closer. When I'm trying out a lot of these new Pokemon, the team comp thinking isn't exactly the easiest thing to come up with. So what I highly recommend you guys doing is checking out the team builder aspect on PvPoke. That's what I like to use a majority of the time. And then once I'm looking at it, I'm like, alright, does this make sense? I'm thinking about, does this have good coverage? Things along those lines. And I feel like Azu and Bastion pair well with Mew just because it gives it some extra bulk. Mew's not exactly the bulkiest. It can take a hit from time to time. And then it just gives them type coverage along those lines. So that was the main logic and why I paired them together. And then also Bastion's weak to fighting, so it works nicely that it's with Azu and Mew, since neither of those are going to be weak to fighting. I get a Flame Charge off there. I just didn't want to debuff myself and throw a Wild Charge. Didn't really need to do all that extra damage. But at the same time, what you'll notice is Flame Charge, again, considering how much energy it requires, doesn't do a lot of damage. When it's like super effective against Galarian Stunfisk, I think we'll see a matchup sooner or later against a Galarian Stunfisk, it does about 40% of its health when it's not buffed at all. So that's one thing to keep in mind when using the move. And in this match, I'm not exactly sitting in the prettiest situation. They had a Whiscash and a Toxicroak. I just got absolutely slaughtered, so I decided to quit the match because, you know, I lost lead. My moveset was not good against a Whiscash. They had a great counter for my Azu and a great counter for my Bastion on the back. I promise these matches get better. Also, speaking of matches getting better, I don't really want to like entice you to skip to the end, and I'm not trying to force you to watch through the entire video, but the 5th match of the set with this specific Mew was pretty insane. I'm not going to say any more. Anyhow, getting into the second match, we have a Mew on Galarian Stunfisk lead here. So obviously the play is to stay in, throw the Flame Charges, see how it goes. I didn't run any simulations, so I have no idea how these matchups go. They went for their charge move pretty quickly, so I knew for a fact this was going to be a Rock Slide. If they would have built up to an Earthquake, I probably would have shielded because it would have done a lot more damage than that. And I'm just going to go straight for the Flame Charge because typically if you have a buff move, once you get to it, you want to get it off immediately because then the Shadow Claws will do more damage, and you saw just there how much a Flame Charge does to a Galarian Stunfisk. It's not like the least impressive thing, but considering how much energy it is, it's nice that it gives a guaranteed attack buff. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more than that. Either way, I get to a second one. The Shadow Claws are starting to tear away at the Galarian Stunfisk, and it helps that the move that's being buffed for Mew is its quick move of Shadow Claw, because it really does do a good chunk and literally claws away at its opponent, in this case the Galarian Stunfisk. I decided to keep another shield there because I'm double buffed. They bring in a Shadow Victory Bell, so I'm going to go for a third Flame Charge here. This I feel like would have to one-shot the Shadow Victory Bell, but they decide to shield it, and I'm like, alright, I'll bring in Bastiodon here. Hopefully I can get to a Flamethrower, or I can just smack down this thing. So we're just going to be committing a bunch of fast moves. It's going to take us both a little while to get to our charge moves. We both don't have any shields, so I can't do anything. I just got to let this come through. Ends up being an Acid Spray because I want to do more damage with the Razor Leaf damage they're dealing, but I was still able to smack down their Victory Bell, and I have a loaded charge move in case that Galarian Stunfisk comes in, which it did. I'm not going to try and commit to a smackdown farm down of the Galarian Stunfisk, because I don't want to be greedy. I'm just going to get off my energy. I'm going to take out the Stunfisk, plus those smackdowns would be resisted, so it's not exactly the most ideal situation. Then they come in with an Alolan Marowak, and I just fall short of getting to the Stone Edge. They're able to get to this Bowling Club just in time to take out my Bastiodon, but it's going to be fine for me here because unlike the first match, everything lined up nicely here, and I had my Azu on their Alolan Marowak. So the big play there was essentially committing to the 2 shields against the Galarian Stunfisk, and they decide to quit out the match. So far, a pretty meta Pokemon, Galarian Stunfisk. Flame Charge helps Mew in that matchup. I definitely would have won the 2 shields. They probably would have not ended up having a shield, and they just would have Shadow Clawed down their Galarian Stunfisk. But either way, at least Mew can win there, I guess, pretty comfortably, you could say, considering they didn't throw or land an Earthquake in any situation. So now I'm going up against this Galvantula. Galvantula's been the hot thing. I mean, like I said, a bunch of videos have been made on it, and they decide to throw a lunge at me, which would have dealt super effective damage to my Mew. I'm going for a Flame Charge here, and that would have probably one-shot the Galvantula, considering it's super effective and it's also very glassy. And then what I realized is I'm going to get outpaced this Flame Charge. So I was hoping that I can get to this Wild Charge, and hopefully the buff, even though it'd be resisted, would do enough to the Galvantula. Unfortunately, fell short, but I brought in the Bastiodon to essentially farm down the Galvantula, and then they swapped into the Munchlax. And the way that they swapped essentially tells me this Munchlax is running Body Slam and Bulldoze as a charge move, so I'm fine with bringing in my Azu here and comfortably trying to land the Hydro Pump because they do have a shield, and then trying to bubble down after that. Now, my next hope is that whatever they have in the back is also weak to my Bastiodon outside of just their Galvantula. So I'm going to go for this Hydro Pump here. I'm going to hope that it lands so it does a good chunk to the Munchlax. It does end up landing, which is great. And now I'm in a spot where I have to decide if I want to farm down or bubble down this Munchlax. They just get to a Body Slam here, so I'm like, you know what? That Munchlax is pretty low. I'm going to shield. I'm going to bubble down the Munchlax now and wait to see what they decide to bring in to counter my Azu, which should be the Galvantula. A Volt Switch would hurt a lot, so I'm going to get ready to throw the Ice Beam, and they end up not bringing in the Galvantula, which was smart on their part because the Dugong could eat this Ice Beam no problem. The issue is this is a double debuff team of Galvantula and Dugong, and I've been hearing a little bit about it because Lunge and Icy Wind are literally clones of each other, so you know, run those 2 Pokemon together and debuff the heck out of your opponents. The main issue with running that team is both of them are very weak to my Bastiodon. You saw there the Dugong threw a Water Pulse. Even that dealing super effective damage wasn't threatening my Bastiodon. Water Pulse is just not a great move, and at this point I'm like, you know what, I'm going to commit to a smackdown down of the Dugong, and then throw a Stone Edge, and I should be able to take this match. The Water Pulse has gotten me low, but I know it takes forever to get to another one. I'm not even worried about them getting to an Icy Wind just because it takes so long. So I finish off the Dugong. Galvantula's coming in. I'm just hoping it doesn't have any residual energy from earlier. It does not. I was able to get to this Stone Edge, and this will one-shot the remaining health of the Galvantula and win me the match after losing lead. So, I already mentioned one positive of Flame Charge on Mew, because not only does it win the Galarian Stunfisk matchup, but it gets it buffed and loaded for the back line. But one negative is the fact that Flame Charge just takes so long to get to, and it's pretty obvious when you're throwing it. So that's something to consider right there. We're getting into this fourth match of the set, and we have a Mew on Vigoroth lead, and this isn't exactly a positive lead because of the fact that those body slams chunk, and I have no reason to use Flame Charge here. But what I am going to do is build up to 2 Wild Charges. I'm going to shield this once, and I'm just going to try and throw both of these Wild Charges and hope that I can get one of the shields. After that, though, I know I'm going to end up losing the matchup, so I'm going to have to dip and save swap into my Azumarill. So, going for my first Wild Charge here. We're going to see if they decide they want to shield the first one. They do decide to shield the first one, so I'm like, alright, time to throw the second one. And now that I'm going to throw the second one, it should do a good chunk unless they decide to shield this one. They're not shielding this one. It gets the Vigoroth into the yellow, safe swap into Azu, and see what their counter swap is going to be. We're both at even shields here. I'm kind of happy they threw the energy. I'd rather that Vigoroth have no energy on it. So they land the body slam, and then they swap into a Gallade. And I was like, ooh, that's a spice pick. I like that one. That's pretty unique. They get to their charge move here. I was salty. I over-farmed a little bit on my Ice Beam, which was a mistake on my part. Knew it was a Leaf Blade. Was thankful it didn't take me out because I did not want to use that shield. I wanted to save it from you in the back, and I was able to still get off this Ice Beam, which will get the Gallade into the yellow and get it pretty low. They are going to be able to Confusion me down, but they still need 2 more Confusions to get to their next Leaf Blade, so Mew can come in and Shadow Claw down the Gallade because it's super effective damage, and I'm close to another charge move, and the Umbreon just came in. So I get off a Wild Charge here. This will do a nice chunk to Umbreon, but unfortunately the fact that, like, you know, Mew's going to take super effective damage from its Dark typing, and then it also has Shadow Claw, plus the Mew's almost dead. I go straight into Bastiodon here. They're going to throw as many charge moves as they can from their Umbreon, and this would technically be a positive matchup for me in the one shield, but they still have this Vigoroth, and this Vigoroth is just going to town, countering at my Bastiodon. I knew they threw energy earlier, so I'm like, this can't be a Bulldoze. They're carrying Brick Break on their Vigoroth, and you almost literally never want Brick Break on your Vigoroth. You prefer Bulldoze. But that's one situation where Brick Break comes in handy, and there are not many situations where Brick Break comes in handy, but that was one of them, and that ends up costing this match, because if it was a Body Slam, because there was no way they were getting to a Bulldoze there, if it was a Body Slam, it would have done literally nothing to my Bastiodon, and it would have had enough health to essentially beat out this Umbreon, which was very unfortunate that happened the way that it did. So I'm going to get off this Stone Edge here, get the Umbreon to the yellow. I'm going to try and pull a sack swap. I failed, and they're going to snarl down my Mew, and then they're going to throw their foul play at my Bastiodon. I swapped way too early. I wasn't sure where their energy was at. I didn't know if they were just throwing foul plays right as they were getting to them. I thought maybe they would overfarm a little bit, so I didn't want to, you know, get caught off guard and be too late. Turns out it's too early, and unfortunately was not able to take that match. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Take note, this is up against a fellow rank 10 trainer. I'm not even going to comment, I'm not even going to give an analysis too much on this one. This one's just such a beauty to watch. If you follow me on Twitter, which I recommend, you know, the link should be in my description, check that out. I posted this early. I don't typically post my content too early there, but watch how nicely this match goes. It's insane. So I get to the Flame Charge here. They're over-farming a bit, so I'm like, alright, you know, they're building up to an Earthquake. They might try and bait me, they might not. Flame Charge gets the shield, but now my attack is boosted. Because they farmed so much energy, I'm like, you know, maybe they'll just go straight Earthquake. So I decided to shield. They go for the Earthquake. This benefits me here. This helps me here. Because now Galarian Stunfisk doesn't have a lot of energy. And I'm getting to my second Flame Charge here. And I'm boosted. So this is going to do even more damage if they decide to let this go through. They don't. They actually shield the second one, so my attack is boosted even more. And at this point, if they want a legitimate chance, they need to land that Earthquake if they want to try and stop my Mew. So I shielded again. They commit to the 2 shield, I commit to the 2 shields, and then they swap into an Azumarill. I throw a Wild Charge. This is a double buffed Wild Charge, non-stab from my Mew. Look at how low that got the Azu, and then the Shadow Claws are buffed, so they weren't even able to get to a charge move, and I Shadow Clawed them down, and I'm practically at the same energy I was at before they swapped in the Azu. The Galarian Stunfisk comes back in. This is a double buffed Flame Charge. It's about to go off on their Galarian Stunfisk. It takes out the Stunfisk's remaining health, and their last Pokemon is a Galvantula, and this is a triple buffed Flame Charge coming from my Mew. They were not able to outpace me to their charge move, and it one-shots the remaining health. Look how much a Shadow Claws did to that Galvantula, and I just absolutely swept that very meta line with Mew with Wild Charge and Flame Charge on it. That was such a sight to behold. I hope you guys enjoyed that too, because that was just an insane match. When that match happened, I was in awe. I could not believe that I just swept an entire team with Shadow Claw, Wild Charge, Flame Charge, Mew. And that was a meta team that had a Galarian Stunfisk, had an Azu, and had the new Metamon of Galvantulus. That was a solid team, and Mew went off. So now, let me give my honest opinion on what I think of Flame Charge as a move, and this particular moveset on Mew of Shadow Claw, Wild Charge, and Flame Charge. Do I think it necessarily improves it from the recommended moveset on PV Poke of Surf, Wild Charge, and Shadow Claw? Maybe not improves. I think it's about at the same level of it. It just gives it some different play and it allows for it to go on a slaughtering spree like you saw in that last match. Now, one thing I want to try out, because I went into the first match thinking Flame Charge was going to be a cheap move. And when I realized it, I was like, forget it, let's just do these battles with this moveset the way that it is. So I just left it alone, and I was honestly still pretty happy with the results. But what I think might work better is trying Mew with Psyshock and Flame Charge, giving it something cheaper to potentially bait, or something that you can actually get to easily after, you know, buffing yourself with Flame Charge. Because the last thing you really want to do with Mew is like buff its attack with Flame Charge and then debuff its defense by throwing a Wild Charge, because then you want to get out. So maybe try Psyshock with Flame Charge, because if you buff, then you could throw a buff Psyshock after, and the Mew doesn't have to really worry about its defense being lowered and it needs to run away. So try that out. Let me know how it goes. I might try it out. Maybe in the future I'll do another video on that specific moveset. But Flame Charge is a move I don't know if it's the best move. I feel like I'd rather, I mean, again, it worked pretty nicely there. I pulled off a positive set with a team that I just threw together thanks to PV Poke, but I don't know how to truly judge it. I wish it wasn't so much energy, and as much as it guarantees that attack buff, which is awesome, I feel like it should do more damage if it's going to be that much energy. Like you saw, it was more than a Wild Charge. So if anything, I think it should definitely keep its attack buff. I was expecting it to be a Firepower Punch clone, which I like that it's unique in the sense that it's not that, but I don't like that it's so much energy and doesn't do a lot of damage. It does some damage, but again, you saw it against Galarian Stunfisk where it was super effective, only did 40%. So I don't know exactly what specific stats I'm looking for, but I would just hope for maybe a slight tweak to Flame Charge, just to make it a little bit more usable, and then of course throwing it on more fire Pokemon. That'll definitely give it some more play. So other than that, let me know what your opinions are on Mew with this moveset and the move of Flame Charge. I hope you guys enjoyed the battles. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and there aren't too many other things that have been changed with Season 4. I know there was Signal Beam and Bug Buzz that got altered, so I'm going to try and find something to use with those moves. It's not a lot. I tried checking. So, but that might be everything that I cover for the update. I'll try. I don't know. Either way, I'll see you in the next video. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Alright, adios.